Hello, fellow filmophiles. Are you frequenting the media platforms looking for that next special podcast that'll get you in the mood or find you the right movie to watch for your special night? Well, guess what? You should check out Torn Reels with Andy as the host and his brother Sean as the co-host. You can never go wrong with whatever subject they bring up next. Wake up, bitches, it's Saturday.
Hey, wait for her content. Just keep going.
Wake up, bitches, it's Saturday. And welcome to another fantastic episode of Our Corner, the only podcast that can neither confirm nor deny its existence. My name's Aaron, and with me today is the main man himself.
Patient, unlike you.
Agent Patient.
What?
So today we are talking about...
Fucking Andy.
We're talking about the most recent documentary here that just came out. We're looking at the American Conspiracy, the Octopus Murders.
Yeah, it wasn't most recent, but it was a documentary that came out. It was just talking about the Inslaw sounds like coleslaw Inslaw software project with Promise that was sponsored by the what is it? The House of, what is it, Defense? The Department of Defense,
Department of Justice.
Department of Justice, you're right.
There we go, the Department of Justice.
Monetize, to kind of organize their contacts, their leads, all that stuff, but it ended up becoming the spyware thing, and ultimately led down this conspiracy theory that showed a reporter who either was killed or he killed himself. Now...
Isn't it funny how that always happens? Like... Hey, I stumbled on something, and now I've murdered myself.
Were you Hillary Clinton yourself?
Yeah, were you just Hillary Clinton yourself? Yeah. Absolutely.
The Hillary Clinton version of suicide?
Gave them the Epstein treatment.
The Epstein treatment, yeah, bro. The Four Boys on the Track vibe. Which, by the way, is actually... Which, actually, by the way, is actually mentioned in the American Conspiracy... the Four Boys on the Track, where they said they got too high and laid down on the track. In reality, is because they found a secret airport that was smuggling in cocaine from the Iran-Contra and all that stuff, and the boys ended up dying. And then some dude literally got his head blown off, and a dog ate part of the head, and they said, oh, well, he died of natural causes, and the chihuahua bit through his head. I was like, a chihuahua bit through his head. That's what you're going with?
Yeah. You know what, man?
You didn't even try to come up with an alibi, bro. That's like the worst.
Swamp gas reflecting off the moon of Venus was like, we can't really prove that just yet.
That was the most horrible. I was like, really? A chihuahua? That's what you got.
Bit through his head. Ah, yes, the chihuahua, the deadliest animal in the animal kingdom.
It's actually the most angry.
The most angry.
Yeah, it's short and needs to poop all the time.
But it's got to be the most dangerous. Let me ask you, man. How many people have you heard of surviving a chihuahua attack?
All of them. I usually use them like footballs.
There are no survivors. That was a trick question.
Just stop. Just stop being you. So, okay, what did you think of the documentary initially?
So we've talked about like conspiracy theories quite a lot, like just off camera, offset. You know, it's one of the things that kind of ties our little group like together is like going around because we never really put anything past the government, but this kind of blew a huge whistle in my head. And in the sense that, like, while we had talked about, like, the Boys on the Track before, while we had talked about, like, the Clintons being in on a bunch of shit,
yeah,
like, one of the big things that got me was, like, people accidentally stumbling on this. And it was, like, it's extremely hard to initially stumble on anything, even small stuff. But this was something that was, like, massive, and you just sort of, like, failed forward into it.
Yeah.
You know? Honestly, like, because you know me, I'm not a huge tech guy. I don't know a whole lot of coding. But the idea that it came out as the Inslaw, or like they were calling it like
Inslaw.
the Inslaw.
Inslaw.
Which
sounds
is
like a scientific method of... Anyway.
Inslaw, different from coleslaw, which is just cabbage in Thousand Island.
It's not Thousand Island.
See, like...
Do you know how to make coleslaw?
I don't know how to make coleslaw. I don't like coleslaw. Just in case you guys ever like wonder about my taste, it's not coleslaw. Don't bring fucking coleslaw.
So hang on, real quick before we get back to the documentary. First of all, coleslaw is white. Thousand Islands is like orange. Not even the same color. Like
yeah.
not even the same color.
Yeah, I don't know how to make coleslaw, my guy. I'm not the coleslaw. Well,
just okay.
Stop. I'm gonna need you to take the mic from this point, bro. Just
so we're gonna go over the death first of the reporter. Do you happen to remember his name?
It was Danny Casolaro.
Casolaro. Good. Not to be confused with casserole.
Casserole. Yeah, not confused to be with casserole, which is also a delicious cabbage dish.
What?
No, I'm just kidding. I know what a casserole is.
Oh my god. Oh, I hate you. Oh god. Okay, so the death of Danny, what's his name? Oh, Casolaro.
Frustrated you so much you forgot.
He basically had 8 cuts on his wrist on his left hand and 8 cuts on his wrist on the right hand. That's fine and dandy. Everyone's like, okay, cool. Bet he killed himself. What else would you expect? I'm with you so far. If you cut too deep, which you have to in order to kill yourself, for those who haven't tried, because they just don't make rope like they used to. But when you cut in too deep, the ability to move your hand becomes like gone. It goes away. Like you can't actually move your hand afterwards. You cut into the tendons, you cut into the muscles. So the ability to actually cut 8 cuts into your wrist and then flip hands as you're bleeding out and go, I'm going to cut into this other wrist 8 times. Yeah, no, I just don't think physics allows you to do that. Muscle fibers and, tendons and such. Those are the complicated things of life, as we can tell. But, yeah, no, it doesn't allow you to do that. And the fact that you went from there into the bathroom, from like the main living room of where the hotel was, so your like little sitting area because it was a suite, and then you went into the bathroom, but you weren't actually like there's no visible footprints. It looks like you were dragged into the bathroom, and then not only were you dragged into the bathroom, you actually ended up in the tub. So you had the consciousness to be dragged or floated into the bathroom, if you will, and then laid down in the tub and waited for yourself to bleed out. So I'm not seeing how that makes sense, but that
was one of the things that kind of stood out too, because when you mentioned it, I was like, oh yeah, they did fucking like they tried to explain it as like, oh, suicide, and they did the investigation, and there was so much.
No, they didn't. They did zero in investigation. They picked up the body and then they embalmed him, and they were like, oh, by the way, autopsy. It's like, oh, but we embalmed him. It's like, what? You didn't do an autopsy? No, we didn't.
I remember them mentioning that, and then like the family was really upset about that
because it's death 101.
Yeah, because it's like you should know that.
Yeah, if I were to die right now, like on this cast, when they take me away, they're gonna open me up. The place is gonna smell like tater tots, but they're gonna open me up, and they're gonna do the whole removing of the organs. That's a lot of organs. That's a lot of big space. But they're gonna do that. They're not just gonna embalm you because that's not what you do.
That makes sense. I mean,
I hope so.
I get it. I really do. I think my big question here is because when we had talked about the suicide, right?
Yeah.
But what initially was it that he stumbled on? Because we talked about how like the Promise software was spyware, how we were selling it to like enemies, but like...
Well, it didn't start off that way. It started off as an organizational... Sorry, I got up weird, so pardon me. But it started off like as an organizational tool for the government, so that way they can keep track of all these convictions, of all these laws that are being passed, of all these suspects, victims, all that stuff, like just a database. It started off as that, and then it evolved into something else, which they were able to then control, which is why the Department of Justice stopped sending the money to the creator of Inslaw and all that stuff. They stopped sending that because there was evidence that top engineers were actually looking into Inslaw to see how they can recreate it without having to break the copyright. You know what I mean?
Got you.
Because he did have patents on it and everything.
Yeah, and wasn't that the part? I believe that was the part where they started talking about like trap doors or things like that. Or
they were talking about
when they sold it to their enemies, right?
So what they were talking about is they were saying that there's a conspiracy of having like back doors and stuff to programs, which in Hollywood we hear a lot about like back doors to programs and stuff. It's just basically the reworded coding. The problem is that they were trying to use it to spy on their allies, which now in 2024 we know that happened, that they sold a bunch of like tech and a bunch of hardware and a bunch of software in order to spy on their enemies and be able to keep kind of the foreign relations intact and everything like that. That's why the U.S. also became like the head of the UN pretty much for that same reason.
I gotcha.
And we know that now.
Well, speaking about the UN, wasn't there like something that was tied to Reagan and the hostages in regards to the UN?
Yeah, that they delayed the work on releasing some hostages in the 80s, some reporters that were held hostage until they were guaranteed that Ronald Reagan was coming up for election. Because remember, Ronald Reagan was not supposed to get reelected. Him getting shot and the hostages were what secured him to be reelected. They were like, oh well, he's gonna wanna try to get the hostages out as quickly as possible. The other guy, his opponent, they were trying to like come to a term, but what happened is that Ronald Reagan had already secured their release. They were just waiting until after he got reelected to be like, oh, they released on our terms, and it was basically blaming Reagan, so he would be the beautiful, awesome president that people imagine that he was today.
Yeah.
Minus the dementia.
Yeah, minus the dementia, because we now know
Reagan sleepy. Sorry. Reagan smash. That bit in fucking Family Guy destroyed me, bro. The first time I saw it, I just fucking died. Because he has dementia. He had dementia. He died a long time ago. That was... forgot how to breathe. Man,
the fucking name of that thing that they did.
Dementia?
Was not dementia. But yeah, I mean, dementia is what he has. But I mean... The name of that tactic was it was October Surprise, right? The October Surprise.
I got a surprise in my pants, bro. Yeah, no, it was called October Surprise. The surprise was that we were being lied to.
Yeah, not surprising anymore.
Yeah, no, it's happened like 80 times.
What was it, man? They called it the Octopus Murders. Why did they call it the Octopus Murders instead of like the in-laws murder?
Because it wasn't attached to the software anymore. It started off as a software, but that guy that got the software taken from him, it ended up coming out that he faked a lot of his sources. So a lot of these things that he was talking to Danny Casolaro about ended up being faked. Like they weren't like real, like live sources. So a lot of that stuff was filtering out. But because conspiracies had already gone around, had already started making their way, it was like a squirrel with a nut. Eventually, he came across something that had some water in it.
As conspiracies often do.
And Danny Casolaro followed that and then found something else that had water in it and then found that and then found that and then found that. It is said that the reason that he would kill himself would be because he realized that the beginning, what was his name, Bill? I think it was Bill, the guy from Inslaw.
It was Hamilton, Bill Hamilton.
Bill Hamilton, and then what is the other guy that they met? The Ratatouille?
Reconciliato?
Reconciliato? What the fuck kind of name is that? Dude looks like the guy from Igor.
Oh my God, he does.
He looks like the guy from Igor. Oh, it's hilarious. We're gonna put a picture somewhere that Tyler's gonna put on us, so to show
that
the
way
Igor and then show the other guy, or
a side by side comparison about what these two fucking
wherever he
people
decides to
look
edit it, we'll figure it out. But
have you know what's really interesting when we look at like conspiracies and things like this, right? You look at like the time frame in which they come out, what's going on in the world, and then you kind of like can kind of gauge whether or not they've got any sort of water. But like 9 times out of 10, the conspiracies that we've mentioned from the past, like even when they were out, was like, they're just nuts. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, it's like they're not nuts.
Well, think about it.
All this shit happened.
Think about it. If you were trying to keep a secret, and some people are getting close, wouldn't you be like, yeah, bro, okay? It's like in that Batman movie where he's like, so you're telling me that you think your boss, the richest man in Gotham, is beating the shit out of criminals in the middle of the night, and your plan is to blackmail this man and, get some type of reward money, right? And he's like, yeah. He goes, good luck, bro. Good luck. Like, think about what you're saying. Like, it sounds ridiculous, but in reality, it sounds. But now we know that from not just a lot of like the documentaries that come out, even a lot of shows that reference it. Like I told you the other day, the one where Tom Cruise is the drug runner. They literally have that scene where they're in Alabama or Missouri or something like that, and the guards leave because they hear something in the woods and they take off to go figure that out. That is the scene for the 4 Boys on the Track. They literally put it in the movie. It's so fucking hilarious that they put it in the movie.
They're not even trying to hide it anymore.
Yeah, but there was a bunch of other things that happened. But Recognizance dude, or whatever the fuck his name is, that guy, he was the one that he came up with other bold accusations, but this guy was very smart. And he's very good at manipulating. So what he did is he had a lot of conspiracy theories that had some merit to him, and kind of gave it to this guy. and then filled it up with other bullshit like, oh, they're coming after me, they're doing this. Well, yeah, they were coming after you because that fucking reconciliation person, whatever the fuck his name is, that guy, he was running drugs from his.
Call him Rico for short.
Yeah, dude, whatever his name is. He ran drug operations in his dorm room from fucking universities that he used to attend. Like, he got 26 years. Like, in the documentary that you see him being released. He's not being released from fucking the government or from doing all that shit, from being a whistleblower. He's being released because he ran a drug ring over at his fucking place for like one of the biggest drug rings ever, and he got 26 years for it. The reason that it gives the conspiracy merit is because he served more time than anybody else who's had similar charges. Like, that's why people were like, oh, he's got to be real. It's like, he's just a happy little penguin, dude. He really does look like a penguin, though. But all these octopus murders ended up coming out in different ways. And the reason that they're called octopus murders because it's basically the heads of the government at the time spread out and shown all these murders that are like tentacled out when you draw them on a graph.
So it's showing you exactly what each one does in this circle of people.
And these octopus murders lead to the JFK murders, to MK Ultra, which all seem to have taken place roughly around the same time. You have the CIA working with Miguel Felix Gallardo, having them work with the Cali cartel, having them work with Pablo Escobar. You have the Johns being infected with syphilis. All this goes through all this.
Was this the same time that they were working with Che Guevara?
Yeah.
So then, like, during this time,
Che Guevara and what's his face? Castro. Dude looks like a fucking broom. Anyway, they
a broom, like an evil Super Mario.
No, he looks like one of those brooms that you clean your shoe with, like flat top. You just beat the devil out of it. Anyway, they both have CIA numbers, and like they both were agents of the CIA, and people have all this like.
Dude, that's fucking wild.
Yeah,
man.
dude. There's a lot of stuff.
Like,
that
imagine
happens.
that your enemies work for you. You can pretty much say whatever you want.
Are you my enemy? But no. So all these conspiracies attach and do all that stuff, and that's why people believe that he was murdered.
Well, because you're also looking at the same time frame of all this going down, right? Mm-hmm. You're looking at the UN Reagan thing that was happening, but that was also during the time that they were doing the the gun running over for Nicaragua.
Yeah, the gun running in Nicaragua, and then the Iran Contra.
He was working with the cartel to sell them and give them the money behind the government's back because they said no.
No, because Congress didn't approve it. So Reagan, Oliver North, and all them decided we're just gonna switch all that shit on our end. What? Oh, American. Yeah, they make fun of Oliver North for that reason.
Ollie North.
Yeah, Ollie North. But no, that actually, well, again, we found out that it really did happen.
Fox News.
His big-breasted secretary was literally caught deleting information, like shredding evidence. It's like, were they that big that you didn't see the papers, or what's going on?
Did they slow you down that much you couldn't shred them? Like, that's wild.
Although, hang on, if they were like above a B, they're gonna slow me down a little bit. I'm gonna be like,
you've got some other files to take.
Other
care
files?
Of.
What?
Other files.
Utter? Oh, I'm sorry. But
yes, utter too.
So like there was a bunch of these things that came about. Like I think that Rico dude, whatever the fuck his name, that guy, I think that he is an imaginist and he wants to make himself be more important than he actually is. So he thinks that he makes it seem like a lot of people are coming after him and shit. It's like, that's schizophrenia, bro. That's not conspiracy.
Yeah, that's
like
it makes sense, like in the sense that like I mean, now that they've stumbled on and been like, hey, this stuff actually started turning out to be true.
Some of the stuff,
right? That could put you in a sense of danger. You know what I mean? Like, even if you were like, hey, I was fucking around. Well, you fucked around and said the wrong stuff.
But now, to defend the suicide theory, Danny Casolaro had spent all his money tracing down these leads. And he needed to come up with money soon because he had gone, as you can tell, Mr. Loan Officer, there was a balloon mortgage. So he had gotten balloon mortgages on his property, and then at the last moment he had to prove and show proof of payment for all balloon mortgages. He had released a book. He had done a bunch of stuff, but he was about to release a book, but the reason it wasn't released because the editor said they wanted hard evidence. Because a lot of these claims were outlandish. Remember, in the 80s, like now if you say, hey, bro, the fucking government killed, 3 children to hide the fact that they were gun running from like South America, you'd be like, yeah, no, that makes sense.
Yeah, it does. That's why, like, when we're looking at this, it's like, it's not surprising
Anymore.
Because they even released like the actual like footage of the Kennedy assassination. We know who did it. You know what I mean? Like, it's not a theory anymore.
What?
Yeah, didn't they release the files showing like who killed Kennedy actually?
No, they only released like half of them.
Where's the other half of them? Isn't it well past the time where they can get in trouble for that?
Yeah.
It's like, what's the point in hiding it?
They're not hiding it.
It was Colonel Mustard in the library.
They're not hiding it. A lot of those records.
It was Colonel Mustard in the library with a wrench.
A lot of those records were not just were not just sealed, but they were destroyed.
That's wild.
Because the guy that interviewed Jack Ruby, who was the guy who supposedly killed Oswald, was the same doctor that conducted the experiments at MK Ultra. That's the same guy.
Jesus, dude.
Yeah, it all attached together. Like, this is why people find it weird that why did Danny Casolaro die? Because again, you have the financial issues that support his suicide, but you also have the last witness testimony who said that he saw a person with Danny Casolaro who matched the description of a CIA operative whose specific role is to gather intelligence from people. He's literally a psychological maniac.
That was that guy Quay, right? Quay.
Yeah, some French dude. Looks like Napoleon, just tall.
Yep.
Looks like a bean. That guy.
That guy was fucking just weird.
Yeah. His whole job was intelligence training. So basically he knows how to talk to you, to give you information, to take information, to make sure he knows what you're thinking or what you're talking about. Danny Casolaro was led to West Virginia to meet up with some guy who's going to be a whistleblower. What I think was that he was going to meet this guy who was going to check him out. And if he didn't know anything, he was going to leave. No one shows up. Danny Casolaro goes back home. Everybody's all good. But because Danny Casolaro knew stuff, that's what stopped him. And they were like,
this is going to be a problem.
Yeah. Which, by the way, kind of dumb on Danny Casolaro. You were lured to West Virginia, one of the headquarters of CIA. Talking to you, American Dad. But, you know what I mean?
He was looking at you.
You? No, I'm sorry. But Oliver Northsgold. AU. Anyway. So.
Stupid.
So that stuff is that's where people have that toss up. Like, he could have killed himself because of those reasons, the financial reasons. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, why was that guy there? There's a witness testimony that proves that guy there, even though written testimony shows that he was in, Bulgaria? Or he was in some other fucking country at the same time. He had another alibi. So what I think is that they didn't expect the witness to be there. Gave him an alibi, and then when the police were like, but there was a witness, they were like, no, there's not. He died of natural causes from a chihuahua head. But
that's wild. The fucking thing too is that with him meeting up with like just random people being like, hey,
yeah, bro,
I've got info. First of all, you're a reporter, right? You have a sense of some sort of like insight as to what people are like.
And not just that, it's the 70s and 80s. There's like 80 serial killers out. Why would you just go meet someone?
Yeah, dude. And it's in the news. Like,
you're a reporter.
People know what the fuck is going on. You know what I mean? Like, people know what's happening at that time. And you're just like, I'm just going to fucking show up anyways. Okay. Maybe you took the chance. Maybe you were seeing bills pile up. You're like, hey, this could be my shot to get something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And just talk yourself into it. But, like, we've driven out of state before. Like, we've driven far out.
Yep.
You know, at some point you start making questions like, hey, is this a good idea? Like, you know, what are the facts? What do I know? You know?
Right.
And then when you get to the shadiest fucking spot with the tall ass looking Napoleon motherfucker, you typically have like about 30 seconds to realize either A, I'm going to stay, or B, I need to bounce the fuck out.
Well, think about it. If that guy's specifically designed for psychological warfare, he would make you think that he's your friend.
I get what you're saying.
So you can't really put the full blame on Danny Casolaro, but you also can put some stuff as blame.
Yeah, because like you're researching this, and even if you're like, hey, I have no proof just yet.
Yeah.
You're starting to get a good idea of what they're capable of, what you're finding out, and what you have written down. Something in your head has to have a red alarm of like, hey, I need to start watching my back.
Yeah, and he was getting threats from people from different voices, from people from different things, and everything like that. Like he was getting at the end of the documentary. You see the new reporter who actually, believe it or not, which for whatever reason looks exactly like Danny Casolaro. He looks exactly like Danny Casolaro.
So you think they just like took like one of Danny Casolaro like lookalikes, killed the motherfucker, threw him in the bathroom, was all. Now you know what's going to happen to you if you don't stop. Bitch.
No. That was Danny. But I'm talking about the new reporter that released the documentary.
We don't know because no autopsy.
What? They identified him.
Dude, I got you so mad you stuttered.
Yeah, what the fuck? They identified him. They just didn't do an autopsy.
I know. I just wanted.
I'm talking about the new reporter that released this documentary. He looks like Danny Casolaro. But even the new reporter is talking about how he's seeing a lot of similarities between him and Danny Casolaro regarding how the case is treated. Because after he stopped talking to, or even during the times before he had started talking to Bill, he was getting threats. He was getting phone calls. He mentions that in the documentary where he's getting threats and he's getting all that stuff. And then, he's getting warned, hey, just stay away from this file, do this, do that. And it's not Bill. And it's not this Rico fucking whatever dude. It's other people with different voices, with different accents from different places. And even when he's calling up to like police departments directly, and he's talking to like the chief and the people who do the FOIA requests, they're immediately saying, hey, we're not going to give you any information and you need to stop looking into this. Otherwise, people are going to start fucking dying again. Like that.
And like even whistleblowing, they're like, nah, fake news, alternative facts.
It's like...
That's fucking wild.
Yeah, dude. It causes a little bit of
Tell
here
me
and
you're
there.
sweeping things under the rug without telling me you're sweeping things under the rug.
And there's a lot of cases like that. It's funny. But they're trying to make it seem like it wasn't Danny who accidentally stumbled into it, but it was like, you know what I mean? They're trying to make it like he didn't really know what was going on, but obviously if you had him killed, he knew that something was going on. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, so like you kind of like start really putting suspicion on yourself when you start taking action like this. Cause like you have two moves, right? You can let the guy live.
Yeah.
And, he says some stuff, whatever. And then you can kind of be like, oh, he's a crackpot. You can kind of drag his name through the mud, pretty much fraud him out.
Right.
And that could be something where it was like, hey, he's alive. He might still be trying to approve it. And then, years later, maybe take him out quietly. But you, at the hype of this, took him out and did all of this shady shit and was like, don't worry, this is all going to blow over.
And again, with the conspiracy, there's backup, there's room and suspicion that the government was behind it because of the fact of what they did with Bob Lazar. It's a lot of similarities as well, where they try to discredit Bob Lazar. Whether it's real or not what he said, what they did was real. They try to discredit him, say that he didn't work at S4, say that he didn't work this, that he didn't work at the Jet Propulsion Lab, even though he did, and there's record of it. You're seeing that similarity with Bill Hamilton and a few people that are going on. Like Bill Hamilton was so sure of all this information. That lady that shows up in the interview is saying, oh, well, I got my sources from these people that used to work at DC. But if you go back and actually do your own research and you look where this lady did her bar stuff, it is frequented. If you make a simple phone call, you can actually call the bar where she worked at during that time. And it was constantly frequented by U.S. officials. Constantly.
Jesus.
So how much of what Bill Hamilton fake leads and stuff were actually true? Because actual people were walking by.
Were just documented as fake. Like,
right.
Hey, that didn't really happen.
Right. And it shows that the government's trying to discredit. It's like, got it from this crazy person at a bar. It's like, but a bar that was frequented by officials?
Okay. Let me ask you, with this documentary coming out, right? As we're seeing more and more like evidence like of government doing shady shit, let me ask you, what is the significance? What impact does this have in regards to like, just let's keep it local, right? To our local government. What impact could this have on people's way of thinking? What could it really change?
Not much really, because there's so many. issues going on socially with people and with the new generation that's coming up, that no one's really focusing on these old, like, corruption things, which is beneficial for the government because they're like, yeah, don't pay attention to this. It never happened.
Yeah.
And you have people who are now going as far as to say that there's like Holocaust deniers who are like, oh yeah, this never happened. It's like literally it happened. What do you mean? But that's what they're banking off.
The Holocaust deniers are the funniest ones because it's like there was a whole fucking world war about it.
Literally.
I would get it if you're like, yeah, this was like a small time skirmish somewhere in like Europe and nothing ever came of it.
I thought you were gonna say Yugoslavia. I was like, why does it have to be that place?
But you're
Don't
talking
they have
like
enough problems.
you're talking like Sweden knows about it, France knows about it. Like one country may be a liar. It's fucking every country.
It's because people have this delusion that if it's happening over there, there's no way that it could happen here. So for a lot of people, it disconnects reality, and they're like, "Oh, that's just movie shit. That's just shit that we hear about that would never happen ever or couldn't happen ever again." It's like, this happened during, okay, and you just let it go.
Well, like, and most people aren't aware that like this shit's still happening.
Yeah, there's just a lot of like
it's not
fucked up shit going
Germans,
on.
as far as we know. Probably Germans, most likely Germans.
Why do you have to blame the Germans? No, I get it.
Why do we blame the Germans?
I get it. I told her as soon as it came out of my mouth, I was like, nope, vibes. But
It's like now we get angry whenever we're behind a Volkswagen, like for real. Like,
but no, it's like this documentary shows that there are more things that need to be looked into, more disclosures that need to be that need to be taken out, more debriefings, more fucking declassification of files and all that stuff that need to be shown out just to see what we can happen. But the problem is that a lot of people destroyed all this stuff. So
we're talking like
really
a lot more transparency within our government instead of letting them kind of like roam around unchecked.
For the most part. But you got to remember, back then we were really limited to the technology we had, so we couldn't really call out anybody because we didn't have a way to prove it. Now we have more stuff, but it's still hard.
That's very interesting. Yeah. And it's really kind of cool to think about where we would go with that kind of like it's either going to go really bad or it's going to go really well.
I guess the hopeful thought is that now that there's younger people or more people coming into circulation with politics, that there will be people who will call for demand for these files, for these things, and kind of hold people accountable. I guess that's the hope, but you never know.
Yeah, there's always somebody that fucks it up.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I would like to think that like in regards to conspiracy theories and in regards to like their impact on not just us but the other generations, that it keeps them looking. You know what I mean? It keeps them like avidly aware that like, hey, not everything is right in Denmark, Like
not everything is right in Denmark.
Like keep your eyes peeled, because as much as like, yeah, we've got a cool government, our government is also shady. Everybody that that works in government is some form of shady.
I feel like it's a bit generalizing, but yeah.
And of course, I don't mean like, hey, your local postman is like the fucking
fuck my post
baseline
office
murderer. No. You know what I mean?
No, fuck my post office guy. That guy has some shit going on.
He is tied.
That guy
is tied directly to the Illuminati.
Bro, he is plotting my downfall from afar. I see him looking at me and he's like, you're not getting mail. It's the third time I missed a package. That dude looks at me, looks at my window, and then throws my package.
And has the package directly into his hand, and he just looks at you like I'm a football toss this bitch.
And he throws it in the back of the truck, so I'll never see it again. I'm like, you bitch. We've gotten into it.
You package carrying fuck. Bring me my goddamn bills.
Dude, he bumped my car a little bit and he's like, I didn't do it. I was like, you clearly did it.
It's like, I have a fucking camera.
I literally saw you. He's suspicious. Like, fuck that guy. If the police are listening to this, come at him with
whatever serial killer you've got going on in our neck of the woods. It's
more
him.
It's not more important than my postman. That guy's news.
That guy, yeah. We can't even be like, I suppose we can't even throw something in there and be like, check him out for child molestation, because that's a serious offense.
That's not something he did. He just fucks with my packages.
It's like, and that's really a true federal crime.
What?
Fucking with people's mail.
Yeah, he'd probably get more time for that anyway.
Yeah, it's true. That's true. I think this is a good place to wrap it up for today. What do you think?
Yeah, it's a good
Big
place.
bets. I've been your host, Aaron, and with me today has been the main man himself, or
Sean.
hasn't been with me.
I've been here. I'm
It's
not
been
a cat or
Agent
Schrodinger.
Patience. Have a good night.
Bye.